if you're listening to this and if you feel like you're complacent, just realize that that's a very basic, sort of way of being.
Mm.
Allow yourself to actually be epic. Definition of epic is different for everyone. And by the way, this doesn't mean you should hustle and grind and do all this stuff and be unhappy. It actually means find your happiness. Find your happiness in this like dreams and visions and goals and who can I become? Right? Every day we're two people. We're the person we are and the person we're capable of being. Chase the person you're capable of being.
Well, welcome back to a new episode of Real Estate vs. Technology Unleashed, where anything can go in this podcast. I'm super excited. About 80 degrees here in Arizona, and I gotta say that I'm very grateful for the weather to be cooling off. So if you're in the space of real estate, which you probably should be if you've been watching our episodes, we're like 420 plus episodes now into this show, which has been such a blessing. So thank you all for watching, listening in, subscribing, and giving us your feedback of your show. If you're looking for a coach, and you don't actually have to be in real estate. So if you're someone that's looking to have one-on-one coaching, if you're a real estate professional, you want some coaching, group coaching, or if you just literally want to be a happier human, we have someone today that definitely is adding a lot of value. So he was actually in the real estate industry for quite a while, 23 plus years in the real estate industry. And then from that, he was one of the number one coaches with Compass, and then transitioned having his own practice so he can have more time with his family and his friends and his loved ones, and he can control his schedule. We have the one and only Skye Michiels on the show. Welcome to Real Estate vs. Technology, man.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored.
Of course, man. Of course. It's a pleasure to have you on and to go deeper into your story and what you're about and what you're doing. And I feel that a couple things that resonated with me as watching some of your content is that people just don't really understand the fact that like it's more than just hustle, bustle, work, make all this money, and then you're trying to get to this like peak of a mountaintop, which you discuss in the videos and you talk about in your philosophies. And there's like, you never reach that. And people forget about the journey. They forget about health and fitness and their family and just so much more to it. So I'm excited to pour into this, man, and just add value to our community here and just help just one person.
That's it. Let's go. I love that intro because I think it really speaks to this idea that I'm passionate about, which is the hustle culture that we've been fed is actually bullshit.
It is.
We're being fed this idea that, the key to success is actually hustling, working hard, working late, avoiding your family, grinding, all this stuff. When the reality is like the key to success is actually right. We have everything we need right here.
Yes.
All we are is all we need.
Yes.
And yet we're sort of being fed this message like you need more, you need more, you need more.
Isn't it interesting how we have this preconceived notion that like something external is going to give us validity or is going to make us feel that like, oh yeah, I just bought that like dream car.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's been a month now. I'm kind of not happy anymore. What happened?
And that clip that you referred to in the intro, it's a concept I call, life is climbing a mountain with no top. Right.
Yes.
And for a lot of us, we feel like the car, the house, it is the top of the mountain. And when we get there, we'll be happy. When we get there, and everyone that's listening to this, and I'm sure you're the same way, everyone that is successful in life and business knows that the minute we get to what we think is the top, we just set another, it's just another sort of milestone. And then there's another top and another top. So when we adopt this idea and this mindset that life is climbing a mountain with no top, and the key is not to get to the top, the key is actually to enjoy the step you're taking right now. And what is it that's in my life right now that I'm grateful for, I appreciate, that makes me happy? And that doesn't mean you can't be striving and setting huge goals and accomplishing things. But in the pursuit of big goals, if you lose the idea of happiness is actually right here, right now, right where your feet are, the reality is the top of the mountain almost becomes the bottom of the mountain. and we get plunged into some really dark depths that I'm sure a lot of us have been in, when we're sort of striving and we leave chaos behind us in
Amen.
that.
Yeah,
So
100%. And it's a practice that I practice every morning. First thing I do before I get out of bed, I'm always thinking to myself, like, what am I grateful for? Like this morning I wake up and I have my 6-year-old daughter, and she wanted to sleep over last night. So she had to sleep over, and my wife, and just like, wow, like so grateful for them. As simple as like the fan and a breeze, a cozy bed, an electric toothbrush. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's so and I think that you're highlighting the key. You mentioned it in your intro too. It's like a beautiful day out, like being able to take those little moments. And I think for those of you listening, I'm holding up my cell phone right now for those watching,
yeah,
right? I think we are holding a device in our hand that's been built, trillions of dollars have been built to make us anxious and disconnected and overwhelmed. And if you're listening to this, and actually, Norman, I'll challenge you. It's one of my favorite things I do with my clients
I love it.
is I challenge people to do a 1 week no notification on just three things. So you go on your phone, take your settings, turn off your notifications on email, on text, and on social media. The
Mm,
reality for every real estate professional listening to this, you're going to check your text messages 20, 30 times a day.
yeah.
You're going to check your email a bunch. You're going to check social media. But
Yep.
what you don't need is that annoying buzz, beep, flashing light, you name it, notification reminding you of all the things that you are not getting to.
I love that.
Right. So just for 1 week and just on those three things, if you want to leave up the rest of your notifications, you want to know what's happening in sports, feel free. But the reality is that we are holding in our hand a device that was designed to make us unhappy.
Yes. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's
So
funny. I'll take it to the next step. They're both silenced. I never have anything on. And it's funny because when I do have the notifications on, it's almost like you'll put the phone down and then it'll like beep or vibrate really quick after you put it down. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, is that programmed that way? Like, I don't need to be on the phone right now. Like, and I have two, so it makes it a little bit more interesting when it comes to notifications and what have you. But yeah, I try to keep mine silent for sure, especially when like I like it like and I don't know, who can resonate with this, but like, when you're in a meeting and it's like and then the phone isn't put down and then someone takes a call at a meeting or answers a text message and they're not 100% present.
yep. Yep.
That's one thing that I really want to always press upon is the fact that like if I'm not just doing a quick clip right now that I'm going to share on social media here after our show, like I want to just be here with you, Skye, and not have to be thinking about what I need to do or where I need to go or the bills I need to pay or the phone that I need to check because something's more important than this. Is like you're the most important thing to me right now because you and I are here together sharing this magical moment, I feel like.
That's so true, man. And think about just going out to dinner. You go out to dinner, you look around and you see people on their phones
Mhm.
or the phone. How many times you go get a coffee with someone or a drink and on the table, your phone goes or their phone goes and it's face up or even if it's face down,
Yeah.
we still hear that little buzz and that beep. And immediately your brain goes into overdrive of,
Yes.
oh my God, like, what am I not getting to? Is there something going on? I'm failing. I'm not doing what I should do. I'm not being quote unquote responsive, etc.
Interesting. Yeah, that's so true. And not to mention to go deeper, like, and I can understand a lot of agents out there feeling this way is that like they may feel because I mean I experience it less than because of likes or comments or views or what you're not getting for the content you're putting out there, which is the validation you're looking for. Where it's like unless you're a celebrity or someone who's like the rapping realtor, and there's a few people out there the broke agent who's like, doing memes or whatever else. And, just so people are clear out there, doesn't always mean that they're equating dollars to notifications aren't dollars. It's just, but the dopamine hit that we get, it's like, it's so interesting.
Yeah. I here's a good analogy for you too, Norman. Imagine you had an addiction to alcohol and yet you slept with a 6 pack of beer next to your head. That the minute you woke up, you grab that. And by the way, you carry it with you at all times. how hard is it to not drink if that's your addiction? The reality for all of us, and especially with kids nowadays as well, it's really
Yeah.
critical. We have
Yeah.
to recognize if we are addicted to that dopamine hit of technology. And
Wow.
again, just like what you talk about, technology should enhance our humanness, not take it away.
Yeah. Agree.
And the reality is, like, we as a human being, we were not designed to be reminded 100 times a day of the things we're not getting to, you know?
Wow.
And the other thing to remember is if you were to picture your cell phone as a secretary or as an executive assistant or an operations manager, a lot of you probably listening have that. Your operations manager doesn't call you every time something comes in.
Mm.
What do they do? They actually will take, half an hour in the morning or in the evening, right? And say, all right, here are the 5 things we need to do. So almost visualize your phone like an operations manager. And if you have those notifications on, it's the equivalent of your operations manager coming to you saying, hey, you know what? Like, you need to do this and you need to do this. All those things coming in on the notifications are other people's priorities, not yours.
Wow.
And you're being reminded all day of letting people down
Mhm.
because you're busy, you're showing houses, you're listing homes, you're doing this, your priorities, but then all of a sudden all these requests are coming in. Hey, do you have the number for the electric company? The
Yeah.
reality is when you control that, probably 80% of the messages that you get will be solved by the time you get to it.
Wow. I love that. And I don't know how many people out there, viewers and listeners out there, especially when you're a newer agent or you're starting to have a lot of success and you feel like you need to answer every beck and call of your client. And that's where like you hit the nail on the head, like time block that, in the morning, right before lunch, and like at the end of your day, emails, calls, texts, whatever the case may be. And that's where I love living and dying by a calendar. Like for me, it's like in the calendar, I don't have to think about it. And the only thing I have to think about is like what I have for that day. And then like before I took lunch, I did my research on Skye. It's the first time we ever met,
Yeah,
right? Like
we've
the two
met.
companies together, like they scout and look for amazing podcast guests, or like this guy would vibe out with you, Norm. Like a lot of value here for the viewers and listeners of the show. So I said, okay, cool. And so here we are, but before lunch, I made sure to like do my due diligence. And that's where technology is beautiful because from your website to your social media to the content you put out there, I can feel like I already know you without knowing you. That gives me the confidence to say, okay, I can come in here with questions to ask and value to have and things to relate to you on, So I love that, man. I
It's
love that.
awesome. It's been great. And yeah, I feel like I know you're ready. Yeah, same thing. And I think again, it shows how technology enhances us as human beings, right? We
Mm,
got to know each other without even talking through
yeah,
technology, but me and you controlled it in the sense of, we
our
didn't let
time.
it rule our life, occupy our weeks of time, or do anything inefficient. Everything was done so efficiently in this whole process.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, your shirt there says it all. You can't do epic shit with basic people, right? And there's no disrespect towards anyone who maybe feel less than or feels like someone who's maybe basic. And basic is it's just someone else said something yesterday. My wife and I we have a little bit of a side story, kind of a scroll moment. We have a couple of properties on the market right now, and the market with the election and everything else is things aren't as hustle bustle right now. It's a little bit slower. And there's a post, I think it was from Sharon, the vice president of Real Broker, and he said, "You can't do a good deal with a bad person." And it reminded me of your shirt that you're wearing, right? And it's something to be said about how where you're at and where I'm at, we can enhance each other from the successes that we've had and the years of experience within this industry to then do something epic and inspire just one person instead of like how anyone listening, you've been around someone who's just maybe has that six pack.
Yeah. Well, and for me, my definition of a basic person is someone that doesn't want to grow and just wants to stay stuck where they're at.
Okay.
That's my definition. And so for me, that's very basic, right? Um,
Mm,
and you can't do epic shit in a state of complacency
yeah.
and lack of growth. So for me, I want to meet people like you who are like, hey, I'm here's my vision, my goals, my dreams, my plans. Like that gets me so excited. And if
Right?
you're listening to this call, you got to listen to this podcast every week because of the fact that you follow what Norman's doing. and this journey is going to be amazing to watch you do what you're going to do.
Oh,
And if you're listening to this, and if you feel like you're complacent, just realize that that's a very basic, sort of way of being.
mm,
Help yourself to actually be epic.
mm,
The definition of epic is different for everyone. And by the way, this doesn't mean you should hustle and grind and do all this stuff and be unhappy. It actually means find your happiness. But find your happiness in this, like, dreams and visions and goals and
mm,
who can I become, right? Every day we're two people. We're the person we are and the person we're capable of being.
yeah,
Chase the person you're capable of being. Every
yeah. Dude,
That's
it's
it.
amazing. It's honestly, it's amazing when for viewers and listeners out there, from my perspective, like when you set goals and you have a vision board and you think about what you want and you share it with other people and you share common values and morals and inspiration to serve and support and help, it's like you have all this extra energy, and you compound that with good food. And I love the Wim Hof breathing method and the red light therapy and going to the gym and positive conversations. And it's just like a recipe for just like massive success. And at the Liftoff Agency that sponsors our show, like, we find out what the visions of our team is, and then we find out what the goals of our clients are. And if we can have the client hit their goals, and the team can hit their goals, and then the company by default will get the goals met. And it's amazing the energy you can pull from being clear.
That's it. That's it. And the other thing I'll throw in there too, Norman, is that for anyone on the call, do not put any emotional attachment to achieving these goals. What you want to do is put emotional attachment into how you're showing up in the pursuit of them.
Hmm.
Meaning, you have a goal to, sell, I have 1,000 clients.
Yeah.
And if you put emotional attachment into achieving that, but you fall short, you're actually probably hurting yourself. But instead, you put emotional attachment into, hey, how did I show up in the pursuit of it? Did I do everything I was supposed to do? Did I, set the targets? Did I lead my team right? And if you can be very proud and happy and joyful in the emotion, in the pursuit, that's where you want to put your joy, because the purpose of a goal really, it's great when we achieve them, but the real purpose of a goal is to dictate your actions in the moment.
Mm.
I want to, I want to lose weight. Like, that's a great goal to have. But the reality is, it really, we set that goal to dictate today, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to not eat pizza and all the stuff that might be bad for me. And
Yeah.
I'm going to work out
Yes.
instead of watching Netflix. Right. So that goal, the real only purpose of it really is just to dictate, what am I going to do today? And attach your emotion onto that versus putting your emotion on achieving it. I hope
Mm.
that helps, you make
Yeah.
sense.
I can imagine a lot of people getting let down, right? Like, if you have all this energy into hitting this goal. We had an amazing podcast guest on, and she talked about how she had this goal that she wanted to hit. It was this big goal that she wanted to hit, and she fell short of the goal by not very much. And she said she just felt defeated. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because it's so true to feel that way. And I'm bringing up my phone because she's just run like a big reward. She's with Real Broker, but Lindsay Joe, she's awesome.
I know Lindsay. Yeah. Amazing, amazing agent. Right.
Yeah, amazing agent, and she's crushing on social media and the whole nine. And some of the trials and tribulations and some of the hardship that she's went through has just made her so much more of a beautiful individual who's like not taking no and shit for nothing, and she is just crushing it, man.
Yeah. That's it. And again, and my hope for everyone that's out there that's listening to this, and for like Lindsay, if she's listening to this, be able to look at everything we gained. There's a great book I read called The Gain and the Gap.
Mm, okay.
And we often we measure our happiness on the gap, right? What we didn't get to versus the gain. And I don't know exactly what Lindsay's goal is, but I'm sure if she were to take a step back and look at, oh my God, look at all I did, even though I didn't hit that fictitious target or that
Yeah,
number. Oh my God, look at how many agents I have in my downline or my rev share. Look how many houses I've sold. Look at all this stuff. And
yeah.
that's like a really, really key factor to happiness, is not measuring the gap, not measuring what we didn't get to, but
Mhm.
measuring what we did get to and what we did gain.
Yeah.
if we start waking up every day, you mentioned gratitude.
Yeah.
Instead of waking up and saying, "Oh my God, I didn't do this, this, and this," wake up and say, "Oh my God, I did this, this, and this," and we shift our focus into what we're gaining, and it'll allow us to really tackle the things we're not getting to.
That's huge. I
Huge.
love that. I love that. Keep it simple. Focus on the small things, not the end results. Enjoy the process. No, that's awesome. I love that. So I'm curious. So we talked a little bit off air about how you kind of like stumbled upon real estate as you're just kind of doing it part time, and then you had massive success in it, and then you kind of transitioned into this coaching world. Like what was like that first kind of inclination where you're like, I can help others. I could do this coaching thing. Like this is my calling, I guess, if you will, from just selling real estate and then being in the transactional world.
Yeah. Well, the irony is actually goes back to my first career outside of real estate, which was teaching. So I was a high school history teacher. I grew up in upstate New York. I went to Syracuse University. I knew I was going to be a teacher from like ninth grade on. And,
Wow.
you know, we grew up poor, really, really beautiful upbringing, but unfortunately we didn't have a lot of money growing up.
Okay.
And so when I graduated from college, I got my master's degree from Syracuse, and I was so excited because I was like, yes, I'm finally going to be like working, making money. I got a great job as first year teacher. And very quickly, I'm like, wow, I'm still poor. I got a master's degree. I got the
Going
job
on here.
I want. And,
Yeah.
the thing with teaching is I knew exactly what I was going to make for the next 10 years because you
Wow.
operate on a step schedule, so to speak.
Mhm.
So every teacher sort of figures out a side hustle, right? Painting, moving, you know, lawn jobs, whatever it might be. Most
Yeah.
teachers, especially starting out, they have little side hustles. So I just stumbled. One of my coworkers said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you look into selling real estate part time?" This is way back in 2001, and I was like, "All right, let me look into it." Googled it, and I found out how to get a license. I got my license in 4 weekends, right? Like
Wow.
all weekend. And I started selling real estate thinking I'd sell 3 or 4 homes a year, make some extra money, sort of fill that little space that I needed
Yeah.
for investing, paying off debt, traveling, whatever.
Mentioned you the summers too.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, summertime I'll work that, nights, weekends. Anyways, to make a long story short, I just took to it like a fish in water, and it became just something I just fell in love with this industry and the career. And I did both for about 3 years because when you're poor, you grow up, all you crave is security, right? So
Mhm.
all you want is to know a paycheck's coming in. I have health insurance, I have a pension, I have retirement. I'm working towards that.
Yeah.
And then when you get that and then you start making money in real estate, you don't really feel it's real. I wasn't, I was like, wait, I'm not leaving. I went to college for 5 years. I have a master's degree. I'm going to leave that to sell houses. Like, that's crazy.
That
This
is
podcast,
crazy.
the market's good. Let me not give up everything I've worked for. So it literally took me 3 years. And I
Wow.
remember there was a month in 2004, I made my teaching salary in a month selling real estate.
Wow.
Not now, I was not living a very healthy life at that time. It was not a good way to live. I was running really hard, working my ass off, loving it, you know. But at the end of the day, it was not a good way to live. But that was the moment I was like, all right, this is real. Like I just made my salary in a month working part-time, quote unquote. I got to make a switch. So I left in 2005, went full-time real estate. And I bring that up because of the fact that from the very beginning of my professional career, I was a teacher.
Mhm.
And then as I got into real estate, people were starting to say like, "Hey, how are you doing this? How are you doing this consultation?" So I was always very involved in the educational process. And then to make a long story short, 2016, I launched my own, me and four other partners launched our own Keller Williams
Okay.
market center. And I was in charge of the education program at that Keller Williams. So it
Wow.
was really cool because I was designing curriculum, training, and running a very large team at the time as well. So I was
Mhm.
doing training for my team.
Mhm.
And everything I did in my real estate career really came back into training. Even if I was working with my clients, it was all about education. That was sort of like a value proposition that I held in my business
Yeah.
was I was going to make sure you were educated in the whole process. I didn't want you to go through this blindly.
Yeah.
Um, So 2018, I was going through a divorce, amicable divorce, luckily, but I needed a little bit of a life switch and career change because of the fact I needed to create some stability to be, a full-time dad and, not be working nights, weekends.
Yeah.
And Compass was just launching in the Philadelphia market.
Nice.
So they approached me to become the managing director for Pennsylvania, eventually New Jersey, Delaware as well,
Wow.
and I took over in 2018 doing that. But when I did that, I also became I also started to teach somewhat nationally for
Mhm.
companies. I spoke at some of the conferences, but then we had this little thing called COVID. I don't know if you remember COVID.
Yeah, I remember that thing.
A little thing. And COVID hit and I was home, March, drinking, eating, on Zoom calls. We were doing happy hours at 4 o'clock. Next thing you know, 2 bottles of wine are gone, and you're watching Netflix. It was just a horrible time.
Yeah.
Couldn't really control anything. And I remember at the end of the March, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I can't control what's happening outside the door, but I can control inside the door.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no need for me to wake up at 6 a.m. I don't need to be anywhere. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to start waking up early. And I sent an email to my office. I said, I'm going to start a group called the 6 a.m.ers. And about 50 people joined, and we would get on the Zoom call at 6 a.m. Tuesday and Thursday.
Nice.
Interview a guest, or we'd have a talk about goals or whatever, push each other to go work out. And that first month of April of 2020 started. And over the 4 years I was at Compass, we had over 5,000 people sign up for the group. Eventually spread we had a West Coast group, East
Amazing.
Coast. And it was a real life-changing moment because of the fact that it sort of propelled me into a national training level at Compass.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, I was named the head of coaching for Compass nationally.
That's
And
amazing.
over. So it was awesome, man. It's been an awesome journey. And the long answer to your question was pretty much training, coaching has been part of who I am as a person
Yeah.
from the very beginning of my professional career till this day today.
Dude. Well, first and foremost, congratulations. Like all the accolades, everything that you've done, and kind of how it all just followed suit kind of more organically. It wasn't really pushed, it just kind of happened. I can relate because my wife was a teacher for 16 years, PE, physical ed. And she, about almost 3 years ago, had a transition into going full time. And she dealt with a lot of the mental mindset blockage. I'm not good enough. I'm not getting a paycheck. This isn't consistent, and all the things. And isn't it interesting how you go and you get your master's and your degrees that you have, and how that then holds you back? It's almost like a psychology kind of mind fuck or something. It's like, what? Like, how am I less than for making more? Like, how
It's
does
almost
it?
yeah, it's like a shackle. Like you're shackled
Yeah.
almost by the accomplishment itself that you feel like you're letting down the education you went versus like just saying, hey, let's
Yeah.
I can make this work no matter what. And I think, Nora, when it comes back to, we're not really taught how to fail. And when you think about the world today, we're really being taught that if you fail, like that's the worst thing in the world. And actually, the reality for all of us on this call or listening, failure is one of the best things that we can go through. And the worst thing we can go through is the fear of failure, because the fear of failure is what paralyzes most people from
Mm,
taking that chance that will change their life,
yeah.
right? Hiring the coach, hiring the marketing company, getting
Yeah.
your real estate license, staying
Hmm.
in a job too long. It's you name it, getting married, getting divorced, having kids, not having whatever it might be. We're
Yeah.
paralyzed by this fear of making the quote unquote wrong decision. I think social media is at a little bit of a culprit here. Our
Yeah.
society, right? The cancel culture that's at play right now.
Yeah.
We could name a lot of reasons, but the reality is, if you're listening to this call, like embrace failure as this beautiful thing.
It is. It,
I mean, any successful person can give you a list. I just rattled off some accomplishments. I can rattle off a list of failures I've had and over and over and over. And every day, if I let failure, or the fear of failure paralyze me, I wouldn't make the decisions I've made to be where I'm at. right?
Amen.
I would have stayed as a teacher. I wouldn't have got my real estate license. I wouldn't have left teaching and gone real estate full time. I wouldn't have
Mhm.
made some of the decisions of launching the companies I've launched. I wouldn't have launched my own coaching company. I would have
Yes,
stayed in my corporate role. And the reality is you got to always think, well, what's the worst case that can happen? You know, the worst case is for most of us, nothing bad will happen if you make this decision. Only good is going to come from it.
that's it.
Only good.
Only good. And you just got to keep moving forward. And that's where I feel like, not to go too far off of the deep end here, but I just feel like that's where our system's broken from the educational standpoint, because you went through challenges to go through the test, to go and do the studies and spend all that time, and you leveled up. And then you saw your value from the perspective of the salary over the course of the next 10 years, and it didn't equate. And unfortunately, the power of B, who's a part of the education commissional, a whole thing, it's like they're not thinking about, like, okay, like, let's be 10 steps ahead here. Let's make sure that people are compensated the way they should be, and things are set up the way that they should be. And so you're like, hey, you know what? Like, and that's kind of my story. Like, I was not seen as an asset, and I was told to just keep my head down and just do my job. And I'm like, well, if I'm not going to be seen as an asset, like, I'm going to go do something for myself to add value to myself, to my friends, to my family, to a community. And that's how I kind of stumbled upon real estate. But it seemed like for you, it's like you're always just that teacher. That was just kind of like you just love to educate and serve and support others. So it was like it was inevitable.
It is. I know this. Yeah, I feel like this is like this lifelong journey I've been on. Like it's come full circle, because now I'm back to being a teacher every day,
Yeah.
back to educating. I'm back to helping people get better at
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Because a high school history teacher, there are some that are very subject matter experts. My role as a high school history teacher, I taught like the worst of the worst kids. So my role was very, I was teaching them life. Like I was a history teacher, but I didn't teach, there was not a lot of things they retained about the Constitution or the Civil War. But I still to this day have students that I'm friends with and that I'm connected to, and
Mm.
that I know I had an impact on,
Oh,
when they were growing up.
I love that. I love that. That's what it's about, having that impact and serving others and supporting, so that way they can be able to live long, prosper, and have a healthy, happy life. I'm curious, guy, like how, when you okay, so like Ed Milet talks about this. Different people talks about the thermostat concept, right? Like, so you grew up poor, right? And a lot of people feel that that's like all they deserve. And not only that, some may come into more money, but that doesn't always equate to financial wealth and abundance, because maybe they spend it, they don't save it, they're not being conscious of what they're spending their money on, so they kind of stay in this like vibration, if you will, in this kind of like lack vibration, or just like I don't have enough, even though you have more. How did you change, like, from going from teaching to then making more money in real estate, now making probably even more money with coaching? How did you change your thermostat? How did you prepare yourself for that, or what was that process like for you?
Well, no, the irony is, my younger sister and I, and I have an older sister as well. We have totally different relationships with money. And it's ironic how we grew up in the same exact household, same genes, same everything, totally different approaches. And in many ways, the things we're taught early on about money, we do carry with us the rest of our life that we need to sort of battle.
Yeah.
So, one of the things when you're poor, a lot of times when you're poor, you actually need to ignore money in many ways in order to survive. Meaning, when I say ignore, meaning like you just like basically almost are okay with like racking up debt and like, oh, we'll make it up tomorrow. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. So I've had to battle that like training I had of like, we'll figure it out many,
Mm,
many times throughout my life. Right.
mm,
My sister, younger sister, was very opposite. She was almost this like world of like, oh my God, I got to hold on to everything I got. And I'm
yeah.
not gonna spend anything, So we
Mm,
came at it from two different angles. And to this day, I still have to battle that, oh my God, like don't, there will always be a tomorrow. I'm always gonna, make more, make more, make more.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I have to battle that mentality because of the fact that when you're growing up, like you're always are just sort of scrounging and figuring out. I had paper routes. We would work the county fair. We would, I'd play a sport in the fall, work in the winter, play a sport in the spring, work in the summer kind of thing. So I always made it work. And that was like something I was sort of learned growing up. And to this day, I battle some of that, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
no, you actually need to save money for a rainy day. You need to work at making sure you are investing, making sure you're doing all these things. So the irony is the lessons I learned, as a young kid growing up, that when we did not have a lot of money, is sometimes like it's what allowed me to create what I create, but
Yeah.
also something that holds me back sometimes as well, right?
Mm,
Because I know I can create money. I
yes.
know I can create. Like that's if there's one thing I know I can go out there and I can create money. I also
Yes.
know I can spend it really well as well. so so it's always this battle of like, okay, remember, make sure you're putting it away, make sure you're investing it, make sure you're paying your taxes on time, make
Yes.
sure all these things that we just weren't taught growing up that we sort of carry with us forward and that we never really overcome or we always battle.
Yeah.
So it's an ironic situation because of the fact my sister now is like a financial wellness coach as well.
Really?
Yeah, and the irony is if you saw our relation, she's so frugal, and I'm like very opposite where I'm like, hey, let's do this, let's go on that vacation, let's make
Yeah.
purchase. I'm gonna make more.
Yeah.
Now I've learned the lessons of like, okay, budgeting, making sure you're projecting, saving, et cetera, because there are these times where I made a lot of money and spent a lot of money. And then the IRS would call and be like, hey, by the way, remember that money you made last year? Oh yeah, that's right. So it's ironic because you always have to learn the lessons we were never taught as kids.
Yeah.
And that no fault of our parents. I have beautiful, amazing upbringing parents, loving, et cetera. But
Hmm.
just didn't really learn that stuff growing up that we still to this day in our lives have to like sort of battle some of those old lessons that we were never taught or the lessons we were taught that are not really beneficial.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. One thing I've battled over the years and getting better with is the self-talk, right? Whether it's like penny pinching, looking at the prices, like going to dinner and trying to budget things out. And so now I got to a point because it would stress my wife out. We'd be like at the grocery store, and I'm like, "Do we need that, or why are you getting this, or whatever else?" And I've had to work through the process of like letting go and just knowing that like it's more's coming. I have the money already. Like, I'm not spending outside my means. This isn't going on credit. Like, it's totally fine. And so I feel like I'm in a different place now, which is such a blessing. And but yeah, it's true. You do have to save, right? And put money away and think about the future. And those are those high highs and there's those low lows. And at Liftoff, we just got back from the Philippines. So we invested a lot of money into our team, which is great. But then on the other side, I'm like, okay, we should probably have a little extra something on the side. So we're gonna have to balance things a little bit different. But you don't know until you know, right? And then you're like, okay,
We fail, we learn.
yeah,
Fail, we learn. We fail, we learn. Like that's this process of life.
mhm,
And I think that's your comfort with failure and the ability to not fear it or let it paralyze you allows you to be successful, right?
yeah, so
Because
true.
you're gonna fail. Like that's the reality. And
Yeah,
instead of like fearing it, you embrace it and know that every time I fail, I've actually gotten better.
mm, I love
The times that I succeeded were not the times that I grew and got better. Those are the times that maybe my ego was,
that.
inflated. I'm like, look at me, look at this award I won or whatever. I didn't grow from that.
Yeah,
I grew actually from failing and then having to battle back and get better.
so true. Not to mention, I don't know who's listening or watching that have a hard time even celebrating the wins, right? It's like we forget. It's like you just crushed it, closest client, crushed it, just got this amazing family into this dream home or whatever. And then we forget, like, celebrate, take a second, go out to dinner, like go buy yourself that new whatever red light face mask or whatever you want to get. You've been looking
Exactly.
at. So I feel like it's what is that they say, like fail fast, fail forward. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And again, I think it's the kind of thing where you don't want to do things that are foolish, but you don't want to embrace that knowledge that you are going to fail in what you do. And that's a good thing, not a
Mm,
bad thing. And it'll remove that paralyzation that a lot of us have that sort of we want to know the quote unquote right decision.
Yeah.
And the reality is the right decision is the one you make. That is the right decision. you know, and you can't go in hindsight and be like, oh, well, of course, we all can go back and say, oh, I wish I'd bought a lotto ticket with those numbers. Yeah, that's great. That's not reality. That's not the world we live in.
So
And
true.
so you can't do that with your experiences in life,
I love that.
and you have to go forward and say, hey, I made this decision. That's the right decision.
Hmm.
And it led me to this point. So,
Love that. That's freaking so powerful. So I want to get a little bit into like some practical, like something that someone could like. Obviously, there's a lot. Whoever's listening, viewing, you could take from what we've already talked about, and just in case maybe there's something that like hasn't resonated yet or hasn't hit you yet, I really want to go a little deeper into like what are your ideologies, your philosophy when it comes to the happier human? Like, what does a happier human look like? And what are some practical action steps someone can take listening or viewing right now to get there?
yeah. Thank you for that question. It's an
Of
amazing
course.
question. The happier human, when I created the 6 Amers, like I use a lot of principles around the miracle morning. Let's say if you've ever read that book,
Great
Hal
book.
Elrod, savers like scribing, keeping a journal, working out, meditating, doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes sometimes that stuff is too much. So the essence of being a happier human
That's
is
it.
actually, this may shock you in what I'm going to say, but actually less is more.
Mm,
So sometimes as we're pursuing this like health and wellness and fitness, we're just doing more and more and more stuff.
yeah.
When the reality is we just got to do a little less, but the less we do is highly impactful. So for people out there that, if this program I run, it really is about allowing people to identify authentically who they are and then embrace the things that are going to make them happier, healthier, and then more connected as human beings. But
Mm,
in that process, I challenge my clients to do less. So in other words, a lot of people are like, hey, like Miracle Morning, like I'm gonna journal, read, exercise, meditate, and sometimes, and even though Hal does a great job of like, hey, just a minute of each and all
yeah.
that,
No,
sometimes it's like you feel like a failure when you wake up and you don't meditate, right? So instead, we want to boil it down into who am I as a person? What is it that makes me healthy and happy? And then how can I make sure I do small little things and that, classic concept of just get 1% better, but do
mhm,
it every day, right?
mhm,
And so in essence, a happier human is that process of pursuing that the sort of the obsession around loving getting better, but in very, very tiny increments,
mm,
very small increments. So rather than beat myself up because I didn't, do 75 hard and 2 workouts and not drink and all this, instead, I'm like, you know what is it that's going to make me really healthy today? You know what? Moving my body. I have a crazy day. I have calls. You know what? I'm going to take this one call walking for 45 minutes. Not
mhm,
this call we're on, but you get the idea, right? How can I infuse little things into my world and do less in order to get more?
mm. I love
And it's a hard concept because I think we're being fed this narrative. You need to do more to get more.
yeah.
The reality, and you probably know this, when you actually focus on your strengths, you give up worrying about your weaknesses and
Mhm,
trying to like fix your weaknesses. Instead, you just lean into your strengths. And once again, less is more, right?
yeah, yeah,
All of a sudden now, whew, what we create is like off the charts.
yeah. No, most definitely, because I think, viewers, listeners out there, it's and myself and a lot of people out there. I mean, even like Alex Hormozy talks about it. I actually have one of his books sitting right next to me. Which one do you got? I got both. All right, let's
There we
go. And
go.
he talks about, the fact that like, just do more and don't get so caught up in needing to do what the gurus say, like you just said, with like checking off all these boxes of things that you need to do first thing in the morning to feel like whatever. So I 100% resonate with you on that. And so, what is there any like commonality from coaching and this program that you have that you've been seeing that like this is the one thing that you see that's the most common thing that people usually go to? Is it like moving their body or breathing, or what is it?
The thing that really most of my clients have been resonating with is meditation. And
Ah,
again, another thing that can be a trap where, oh my God, I don't know how to meditate.
yeah, yeah.
Meditation is breathing. That's all it is. And the reason why it seems to be the commonality among all my clients, because I have clients who are, further in age, and I have clients who are literally like 18 years old.
Wow.
Right. So I have this really big stretch. So while working out is great for some people, for some it's actually really difficult and hard. It makes you, you can't do it physically.
Mm,
So meditation or breath work seems to be the commonality, and it seems to be the thing that most people, when they actually practice it and get into it, and they make it less. Again, 1 minute, one breath.
mm.
Don't worry about 15 minutes sitting in a position with a candle and music and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? No, you
Yeah.
know what? Before I start a coaching session, I literally will take 1 minute, close my eyes, and breathe.
I love it.
And as I do that process of breathing and becoming connected with myself, uh, it's amazing how our nervous system just calms down. Like
Mm,
me and you on this call, we're going to be amped up after this. But if I had to go into another coaching call, I really need to calm my nervous system down to be present. And this whole process, and again, go back to that cell phone, we're just being stimulated all day, every day. And the ancientness of breathing and
mm.
the commonality as human beings of the fact that our breath connects us to ourselves is what most people really need to come back to. So if you're listening to this
Wow.
and you don't meditate and you're like, I'm not good at it, or I can't do it, or I don't know how to do it,
Hmm.
all of these are stories we create to avoid it. And the reality for you, all you need to do is breathe. And
Yeah.
that's and when we start to do some of this simple breath work, it's amazing how we calm ourselves, we calm our nervous system, we calm our mind, and we connect with the most important person, which is ourselves. So the other concept as well that I push forward is this concept of being healthy selfish.
Mm,
The word selfish carries a lot of negative connotation to it, but the reality is when we add the word healthy in front of it, what we're really talking about is loving ourselves and becoming selfish about your health. And when I say the word health, I mean your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health.
yeah.
And for everyone that's listening, we all have different things that hit mental, spiritual, and physical. But the bottom line is we need to become selfish around that.
Mm,
Whatever it is, become selfish and prioritize ourselves. Again, the message that you need to make other people happy is a false narrative. We can't make anyone else happy, right? We unfortunately, I wish I could make my daughter, my son, my ex-wife, my everyone I know, if I wish I could wave a magic wand, they're all happy. But unfortunately, I can't do that. It is impossible. But
yeah.
what I can do is I can actually make myself happy. And I can do that by becoming healthy selfish, right?
Yeah.
Becoming very selfish around my health. Now, for me, unfortunately, most of my day is given to other people. So I need to prioritize my morning. My morning is like my sacred time where I am very, very selfish and
Me
I
as well.
prioritize it. Some people, it's the evening, some people it's during the day, so it's not to say that you want to go work out 8 hours a day. Because for people like me and you, Norman, like our livelihood depends on us helping other people.
Yeah.
But we have to carve out a little bit of time to be selfish about our health. And
Well,
you know this, when we fill our cup in the morning, I can give all day and be at such a amazing level. The mornings that I wake up and I start working and emailing and texting people and like, oh my God, I got this training I got to do today and I got to get this slide, you name it. And for realtors on this call, you wake up, you pick up your phone, and you are immediately working, which describes a lot of realtors. You immediately are disconnected from yourself.
so true.
And
True.
so that's the keys to becoming a happier human. Number one, adopt the mindset that less is more. But the
Mm,
less I do is highly effective and highly tied to my strengths and what I love.
mm.
And then I'm going to identify the things around mental, spiritual, and physical that make me happy and become selfish around that.
I love that. I love that. If you agree, give some love. Give us some comment down below because that was good. That was awesome. And I feel like the moment you talked about the magic wand, yeah, you can't wave the magic wand to make others happy, but you can be the change you wish to you can be the change you wish to be in the world or like to see in the world. So like if you can come up as happy and then they're like, "Dad, like, like what are you on? Breath work, selfish,
I worked out today. I ate healthy. Yeah, I call that concept, Norman, be the light, don't give the light.
I
Right?
love
So often we're just giving our light away and it's
Mhm.
just going on, to nowhere. And instead, we want to be the light.
Yeah.
And when we light ourselves up, we become beacons and people just flock to us,
Mhm.
feed off of us, and then get inspired and become their own light. And
Yeah.
that's really key. It's a
Yeah.
great concept.
And you see it all the time. You see people that are walking around that are giving away their light and they just look tired and beat up and like they just haven't had any time for themselves just to be able to just take it in for a second and that's not even have time for yourself by being sidetracked with the TV show or your phone or entertainment. It's like you got to just stop for a second. And I know for me personally, getting out of my mind and really just practicing every single second of the day, if I'm thinking anything to self, it's I don't know how much I positive self-talk. It's all of the time. It's not some of the times, it's all of the times. And if it's normally my mind doesn't run anymore, but before it used to, and now it's just like if it does, I just make sure that I fill it up with as positive as I possibly can as far as mental mindset. Because like, even behind the scenes, personally, we have my wife and I some stresses going on with our two properties sitting on the market, right? And that could be something that could be, and those thoughts come up. Oh my God, what if it doesn't sell? Oh my God, now we have extra $2,000 per month on bills that we had to pay. Oh my God, the raise I got isn't going towards, investments or retirement, or our next vacation is now going towards these properties that are sitting in the market. Oh my God, we're losing more money every single month. Those are the thoughts that you could be thinking to yourself, or you could be, hey, offer's coming in. It's gonna feel amazing. It's coming in. It's gonna happen. I'm grateful to have the extra cash. I'm grateful to have what I have. Grateful to have those things sitting right there because it's almost 200,000 just in cash, just waiting to be able to be used again, and yada yada yada. So yeah, it's easy to go down that rabbit hole real quick.
It's so easy. And I think it ties to this concept of storytelling we have to
Mhm.
protect ourselves, right? We always create negative stories to almost like your brain is creating a negative story to almost have you pull that property off the market because it's a safer route.
Mhm.
Your brain just is normal. Your brain is only trying to keep you safe.
Yeah,
And especially you mentioned for you, like that extra 2,000 is very triggering, probably.
yeah,
You know, and so your brain is on overdrive and it's saying, I'm going to create these stories to force Norman back to safety.
yeah,
But if you ride it out, there's a huge payoff. So
yes,
instead, if you notice you're creating negative stories, challenge yourself, to recognize and say, that's a story.
Mhm.
That's all it is a story I'm creating about an unknown future.
Yep,
Let me pause, breathe. What would be a positive version of this story? Right?
yes,
Like, what is all right, and literally, you could even do this on, like, an, index card or right? On one side, you write all the negative things that could be there, right? "Oh, we're paying 2,000 more a month. We're, not investing. We're not" right? You write them all out,
yep,
look at them, so you acknowledge them. You don't wanna put a happy face sticker on a piece of shit, right?
yes, yes.
You don't wanna say, "That's a piece of shit, but here's a happy face," like, "Yay." No. You want to acknowledge it and be like, this does suck.
Mm.
And I'm creating negative stories right now.
Yep.
But you know what? I'm going to say, this sucks. You know what? I'm going to create a positive version of the story. And when you start to create a positive version, it allows you to sort of stay in the, in that world where you're like, okay, we're going to create this. And if we don't, you know what the worst is going to happen? We're going to just re-rent the properties.
Yeah.
Maybe not the financial situation we want for short term, but eventually this is going to play out, and it allows you to re-regulate yourself.
I
So,
love that. I
yeah.
love that. I remember doing an exercise and they had you do the same, and then like you would like rip the side that held you back. You rip the side. Oh, is it negative stuff that's holding you back, or is it the fear of like not feeling like you deserve those things because of whatever blockage? But yeah, I also like to be for viewers and listeners out there, I like to be as transparent as possible because I feel like it's more relatable. We're human beings, and so many people just put out all the positive things, like, oh, life's so good and all the things. And there's a lot of stuff to be very grateful for because life is really good. And here's the ugly truth, and shit happens, and we gotta keep on keeping on. So man, Scott, this has been an absolute pleasure. And I want to encourage everyone to go like and follow and connect with you because we'll have all the links down below. Our team and staff will make that happen on the sponsor side for Liftoff Agent. And as we do get closer, I always like to open it up. And is there anything that you're working on or something that you would like to leave for our viewers and listeners that they could apply to their life and to their business and they could use today? I mean, obviously, there's a ton of stuff you already went over, but there's always that like, oh, that's that one thing I wanted to put out there, or I forgot to mention something or whatever. So I always like to just like, just in case.
Yeah. Well, so right now with a lot of my coaching, obviously, as we talked about, I have this life coaching component, but I
Mm,
actually, in my real estate career, have sold over 1,000 homes in my real estate career. I've
wow.
ran an extremely large team. I ran a brokerage. I was head of coaching. So I pull all these really unique things. And the thing I think that's missing in the real estate coaching business and industry right now is an intense focus on the human being.
Mm,
Think about NAR. We think about Instagram, social media. We sort of forget that the human being is the one that makes the decisions around buying and selling real estate. So I want to encourage every realtor that's hearing this, and it, frankly, any business owner as well. How can you lean into your humanity in a greater way?
mm,
And with a lot of this, and Norman, you talk about marketing, and that's what you do, right? How can we actually connect with human beings in a greater way,
yeah.
not around sales, but just about their life?
Yeah.
And I'll give everyone a very tactical, easy thing to do on Instagram. So I'm a big fan of actually doing what I call reverse social media.
Mm,
All of us are, we take Instagram, we click open Instagram, and we are immediately being fed images that Meta or Instagram wants us to see, right? And for most agents out there, who are they seeing? Other agents.
yep.
But the reality is, if you saw your clients and your client had a baby or they had a graduation, they became empty nesters, they got a job, they maybe had a death in the family, they are going through something, you could help them. How much more business would you do if you connected with your clients in a human way? So a lot of people don't realize this, but on Instagram, you can go on Instagram, you click on the word Instagram in the upper left-hand side, and there's a little button that pops down that says favorites. And you can have 50 people loaded in your favorites.
Love
And my
it.
recommendation to every single agent right now is to go and take your top 50 clients and load them into favorites. And when you log into Instagram, don't go to your feed. All you do for 10 minutes a day is go to your favorites and interact with your 50 people where they are in their life. And don't look at the other realtors that are doing amazing social media stuff and feel less than.
Wow.
So,
That's super powerful. And it's interesting that you say that because I have a story. And it's not about you could post and you can do all the things and you're trying to reach out to the masses, whatever else. And I've gone viral and it's not all what it's cracked up to be. It's actually the post takes a life of its own. The people are going back and forth. Like you're almost not even in the equation anymore when you go viral. And so I love that. I think reverse engineering on the social platforms make a whole lot of sense. And that's an easy way to prospect. And to add to what you're saying, for us, right, at Liftoff, we don't care so much about, yes, the numbers are nice. And yes, you have goals that are attached to numbers. And when you hit them, you feel good and it keeps you going or whatever. And I met this gentleman, he's in my market. And the gentleman was, it's easy to judge, right? So he wasn't maybe as it's easy to judge him thinking from the perspective of like, oh, he's rough around the edges, or I don't know if I can connect to this person because of whatever, right? And so I like challenges and I like to connect with people that maybe isn't always the most comfortable. And if anything, it was just because he wasn't open. He was kind of closed a little bit. He was more of an introvert. He was reserved. It's a perspective of a marketing company, right? So this guy's looking at luxury presence, agent image, lift off agent. It's fine. And so at the end of it all, like budget wasn't there. He had a closing, and he spent the money on his house, bought another house, helping his mom out. So I said, "Hey, dude, you want to be on our podcast? Like, I just got the new studio set up. Would love to have you here. You're locally." And he said that he typically wouldn't do it. That's not something he would do because he's very like closed and he doesn't want to share his emotions and his feelings and what have you. And then his wife said, like, why don't you do it? Why don't you just go on that podcast and just open up? And he thought to himself, like, he wasn't worthy. He wasn't an Alex Hormozy. He wasn't a Mark Zuckerberg and what have you. And it was so magical because I said, dude, we don't want those people on our shows because at the end of the day, yes, they've had a lot of success. And yes, you can leverage that for views and monetization and whatever the case may be. But we all have a story to tell. Doesn't matter who you are and how much success you've had. It could be as simple as just taking care of your mom or helping out, your kids or whatever it is. And you don't know what you don't know until you get into the story. But it was funny that you said that ending the show because I was just like, oh my god, like I literally like 2 hours ago just got off a phone call. We just booked the show, and he's going to come here to our personal podcast studio. This is actually in my personal residence, and we're going to have a deeper conversation and talk. And it's not because I want to close his business, it's not because I want to earn his business, not because of any of that. It's just because let's connect as humans. Who knows what can happen? How we can bond and help one person, and maybe we'll have a new friendship, or who knows what.
Exactly. And again, that desire to see him as a human being and not as a client, as a number, as a fill in the blank. That's what is going to make you successful throughout your life.
I love
Right.
that.
That's I hope everyone can hear that message in this day and age. I know once again, we talk technology, we need technology. Allow technology to make you more human
Yeah.
and don't allow it to control you as a human.
I love that. I love the kind of spin off on the, real estate for a second. So on the new show, we're going deeper into when did you have liftoff personally, professionally, and spiritually. And this show has been great on the tech side and getting more into the nitty gritty of that. But then there's like the human element that we are starting to interject into the show. So you have been a just perfect guest to have on. And just with the name Heart Coaching, like it's different, and you could tell that the way that you show up and just your brand in general is more so about the human connection and building those deeper rapports and connections with your clients, man. So Skye, thanks so much for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I've had so much fun.
Yeah, man. Likewise. So go give this gentleman a follow, check him out. And, I encourage you, if you want to sign up for his services. If you just want to, pick his brain on his social media and check out what he has going on, or get one of his courses, you can. I'll plug you.
I appreciate it. Well, hopefully we can talk about collabs too. I'm all
Yeah.
about, what you do is so valuable for agents, and sometimes they just need a little bit of coaching or guidance as well. Or
Yes.
motivation anyways, we can talk offline. So, but
Yes. Who knows?
our human connection is
There could
growing
be
as we speak.
exactly. There could be a collaboration from
Right.
the show. So to all the viewers and listeners, though, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for listening in, as it is our intention for you to take things from our show to have more success in your life, whatever you're going through. If you can please like, subscribe, notification bell, that'd be huge. And thanks for Liftoff for sponsoring the show and all our video editors to do all the production to make this look amazing. And until the next one.